So here is my top 15 PS4 exclusives of the generation, and I restricted the list to just 15 because I knew this was going to be very difficult, as I would have to leave off several games which were fantastic. The PS4 is home to some of my favourite games this generation, but some are going to have to step aside to make way for the best of the best. Even a couple on the list aren't where I thought they would end up before playing them, which will no doubt cause some controversy. There will be some agreeing with me, and there will be others who definitely won't, with some of my choices, but these are all various levels of greatness. Now these games will be enhanced when played on PS5 with increased performance, and if games already had a dynamic resolution, then there will be more headroom to keep it higher more often, plus the smoother frame rate. But this video is about which are the best games you should revisit or play for the first time on next gen hardware. If you like the video, then share, like or comment, as it very much helps the channel and gets the video watched a lot more. And let me know what your list is down below, or which is your favourite game for PS4 and which ones you'll be playing on the PS5, or maybe an exclusive you don't like at all. But without further ado, let's get to the list. So first at number 15 we have the remake of Shadow of the Colossus from Bluepoint Games, the same studio that remade Demon's Souls for the PS5. You just need to take one look at either of these to see that they are one talented studio when it comes to knowing their way around PlayStation hardware, as this version also has remade assets, so it isn't just a slight upgrade, it's huge. The upgrade of the PS2 Shadow of the Colossus to the PS4 version is drastic, which you would imagine it to be, but it looks beautiful and competes with other modern games as well. Players are put into a large but mostly empty open world where you can branch out into any direction you please in order to find and fight the 16 colossi. Apart from some slight camera problems and controls, the game does a great job in showing players the enormity of these creatures. And with the increase in hardware, they just look and move so well. Each requires different tactics to overcome, and if this game strikes a chord with you, then you will probably put it at classic status. It's very much worthwhile checking out, as there isn't a whole lot of games out there like it. At number 14 we have the offshoot of the Yakuza series, and it's Judgment. Instead of being embroiled in organised crime like in the mainline series, you play Takayuki Yagami, a defence attorney turned private detective, after a case goes bad. But like a lot of the time, I'm not going to say anything else in regards to story, as along with the cast of characters, they are the two biggest draw cards of these games. Seriously, the stories and characters are always so damn good and entertaining, whether it is Judgment or the Yakuza games. These are lengthy as well, so you'll need to put some time into them, but there are quite a few side missions and activities that you can take part in throughout the fictional district of Tokyo, known as Kamurocho. You'll come across many enemies and gangs throughout the streets that you'll need to fight, and there are a number of different fighting stances as well that you can use with a number of skills tied to each. Or maybe just pick up a parking cone or a bicycle and smack it over your enemy's head, and see the over-the-top finishing animations. If you've never checked out any of the Yakuza games before, they're highly recommended. If you already have, then Judgment is very much worth playing too. Excellent storytelling, characters, and all well voiced too. For number 13 we have the teen horror slasher game of Until Dawn, coming from Supermassive Games, who've recently released Man of Medan and Little Hope as part of the Dark Pictures series. Until Dawn is the one you should play most, as everything from its setting to its scares to the cliche teen characters all fit together so well to deliver something greater than their parts. This isn't a classic by any means, but chances are you'll walk away from it having enjoyed yourself for what it is, if you like these more narrative focused walking sims. Graphically, it still looks excellent today with some great facial animations, even if they can look a little unrealistic at times. But again, it just works within the context of everything else, and it all runs at 60 frames a second on the PlayStation 5. Go into this one expecting gruesome deaths, blood, and a bunch of jump scares in between making decisions through your playtime. Then go back and play it all over again, changing your decisions and see what the outcome is. Until Dawn is a horror game done right, as it knows what it wants to be. It isn't very deep, and it won't have you on the edge of your seat in terms of tension and dread, but it's great fun, and that's the main thing. Up at number 12, we have Final Fantasy VII Remake, and as I mentioned in my review, I've never been a huge Final Fantasy fan, and I've tried several of the games over the years, but it was this remake which finally struck a chord with me and gave me mostly what I was looking for. Perhaps the most famous and loved of the series for many fans, a lot of time and care was put into what is the first part of the complete remake. With many sections and story elements being expanded upon, Final Fantasy VII delivers in a big way, following Cloud, Tifa, Aerith and Barret as we revisit the city of Midgar, We take control of Cloud and join the eco-terrorist outfit of Avalanche as we launch an attack on a Mako reactor. Mako being a substance which is harvested and which some people think has a detrimental impact on the planet itself. As we follow the campaign and upgrade our team with different weapons and abilities, we get to enter combat in real time, which I enjoy a hell of a lot more than turn-based, which was always off-putting to me in the past Final Fantasy games. With a combat system which can be quite fun, even though it isn't overly deep or complicated, we also get to realise the world and characters of Final Fantasy VII as never before, with character models and environments being well detailed for the most part, even if there are some low-res textures here and there. The musical score is amazing, but the same can't be said for the side missions, which brought the game down a little for myself, with them basically being uninteresting and not worth doing. These are there for the most hardcore Final Fantasy fan, but when taken as a whole package, I enjoyed my time with this remake immensely, and I'll definitely be checking out part 2 when it eventually releases. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later. Up next at number 11, we have Quantic Dream's beautiful Detroit Become Human, which is gorgeous to look at with some incredible facial animations and performances from the actors portraying these androids who are deviating away from their programming. The game opens with a great scene which hooked me, and it kept me there all the way through whilst following these three similar but different characters. You'll play as Marcus, Kara and Connor through separate storylines, but which all intertwine over the course of the campaign and introduce different themes such as what it is to be human, the impacts of technology on society, or how the differences between androids and humans can also be paralleled with the differences that humans see with each other. Of course, this type of game is much more about the narrative and choices you'll make than the gameplay you'll actually be involved in, which is mostly just walking from place to place and interacting with items and other environmental objects. This is much slower paced, but if it's up your alley, then Detroit Become Human will deliver in a big way, and of course, it's best to play it multiple times in order to make different choices and see their effect on the story and what becomes of the characters. If you aren't much into these style of games, I'd still suggest to check it out sometime when you want something much slower paced. It might just surprise you, plus it's gorgeous to look at. Fantastic game. Up next at number 10, we perhaps have the first surprise, and it's Horizon Zero Dawn. This is ranked here based upon just how damn strong the rest of the list is, but in this game, we play as Aloy, who was cast out by her tribe when only a child, but who then goes on early in the game to discover a device that gives her greater perception to everything around her. When it comes to story and character development, then Horizon Zero Dawn is very good, but its real strengths for myself lie elsewhere, and that's in the world itself, how graphically impressive it is, and the fusion of this almost old world feeling alongside the futuristic dinosaur machines which Aloy gets to fight or take over. Just the variety in their design and different ways each needs to be taken down just injects so much more variety and diversity in this stunning world. Then you have the whole crafting system and needing to collect resources, which can become tiresome at times, but it doesn't detract too much from the overall game, especially when the environments look this damn good. And did I mention this game looks good? I certainly did. Play this new IP before the sequel arrives. And as we hit number 9, then it's The Last of Us Part 2. When it comes to a game being divisive, then this would need to rank right near the top, as some people absolutely love this game, whilst others such as myself felt it fell down in several areas, mainly the story, pacing and characters, to stop it from reaching its full potential. Before its release, I was sure it was going to top my list of PS4 exclusives, but it wasn't to be. What it does do well is deliver some good, if not great gameplay, which isn't too much of a departure from the first game, but simply wraps it up in one of the most gorgeous games you can lay your eyes on today. From the environments to the superb character models, where the detail which has been put into the faces is nothing short of jaw-dropping. This extends to seeing the look on an enemy's face before you kill them, or the way you move through snow or mud. Then we get to the excellent voice work, and what it gave me was a technically stunning game in all ways, but which was just let down by the direction the story took and how it was delivered. This is a must-play game for all PlayStation owners, though especially if you thoroughly enjoyed the first game, which I did. It may surpass your expectations or not meet them, but it will be one game you remember for a long time, and at least you'll get to admire just what the PS4 can pump out. Coming in at number 8, we joined Deacon St. John in Days Gone, and this was one game that was plagued with performance and technical issues at launch, but fortunately, I had none of them, apart from a few cutscenes later in the game where the lip syncing was out of whack. When it comes to open world games on last gen systems, these almost always ran at 30 frames a second, but Days Gone has now been bumped up to 60 frames when played on PS5, and it makes this fantastic game even better. When a virus is unleashed, much of the population are turned into violent zombies. Deacon, wife Sarah and friend Boozer try to escape, but Sarah is injured but taken to safety on board a helicopter, which is at capacity. Of course, you'll need to play the game to know more, but I just loved existing in this world, riding around on my motorbike, giving it upgrades, filling it up with gas as I kept an eye out for zombies or hordes which were nearby. And these hordes have numbers in the hundreds. It's damn exhilarating to either take them on or get your ass out of there when needed, as these things are fast. Putting gas in your bike as you see them coming towards you, only to get out of there just in time, or running out of gas in the middle of nowhere, where you now become much more vulnerable. From its setting and story, its voice work, graphics and freedom, Days Gone delivered beyond my expectations. Up at number 7, we have Spider-Man, and once again, this is a stunning looking game as you web shoot all over the map from building to building with draw distances which stretch out far into the distance. Character models are also done well, once again, as is the voice work, but Spider-Man's main strength apart from its visuals is when you follow the main campaign, which dishes up enough great moments and set pieces that sometimes you just need to sit back and remember this is running on hardware from 2013. When I say stick to the campaign, that's because the game does stumble as the side activities and missions are quite average at best. This once again proved that Insomniac Games are incredibly talented and they handled Spider-Man's license with respect, but most of all, made swinging around the city so damn fun, which was so important to get right to make this game work. If you play this game, then you know what it is you're going to get into, and it's fun from start to finish. Once again, stick to the campaign and just enjoy the web-slinging mechanics. Next at number 6, we revisit Nathan Drake and Sully in Uncharted 4, and this series has come a long way from its impressive but ultimately dated presentation and mechanics of the first game. With the second and third games, the series definitely improved in every way over the original, and the fourth game is of the same high standard. This is another game which shows off just what talented developers can get from the console, with Naughty Dog delivering a beautiful game, complete with gorgeous environments, whether they stretch off into the distance, or your vehicle is spitting up mud as you drive through, to the character models, which are just excellent, as is the voice work of the characters. This was really a showcase for the PS4 at release, and it delivered in all areas. Uncharted 4 delivered a fun action-adventure, complete with fantastic set pieces, whether you were in control of them or not. Plus, the cloud of humour which always lingers over the series. It may have begun with some long-lost brother, which seemed a bit too convenient, and it took some time to fully get going, but Uncharted 4 is just damn fun. If we could get rid of moving conveniently placed boxes or anything else for good, then it would have made it even better. Who knows what the future holds for Uncharted or Nathan Drake, but if this is the end, then he certainly went out with a bang. Clocking in at number 5, we have The Last of Us Remaster, and I was in two minds as to whether to include remasters at all, but the likes of Shadow of the Colossus and this are just too damn good to overlook. Considering this is a remaster though, so it isn't a brand new game, and it still holds up on the PS3, then it gets put back down the order a bit. But know this, I absolutely adore this game, but mostly for the relationship between Joel and Ellie and how it plays out. It's perhaps the game's greatest strength and a weakness of the sequel, which couldn't replicate this with any of the characters. There were some absolutely fantastic moments in this game, and you could forget just how well the whole game started. But it's also for this reason, plus the few really important scenes that can make the rest of the game sometimes not live up to those moments. But even with that, The Last of Us Remaster is just a better version of the original, which sees the game run at 60 frames a second now. If you've already played the game, then this is still recommended for those who are already fans of it. A fantastic game, just made better. Coming in at number 4, we have another highly divisive game, and that's Death Stranding. From Hideo Kojima comes this delivery simulator, which didn't meet sales expectations, and I must admit is an acquired taste. And this is coming from someone who never held up Metal Gear Solid anywhere near as highly as many others do. But Death Stranding, once again, just struck a chord with me and I couldn't put it down, and this is for a few reasons. From a technical standpoint, the game is beautiful to look at. From the harsh open world to the exquisite character models and cutscenes, which are some of the best in any game, to the beautiful music which went together with the visuals so well, and which I still think about to this day. Yes, the game is repetitive, but I loved the sense of isolation you felt being out in the hazardous conditions, but also how you still felt connected to other people through the well implemented use of multiplayer features, which let you use the infrastructure left by others, or you yourself building zip lines and having other players thank you for leaving them, so they could travel across the high, snow-covered mountains much quicker. Even though some of the storytelling was over the top, and some small issues I had with the script at times, there isn't much else out there like Death Stranding, for better or worse. It really needs to be experienced to see whether it is for you or not. At number 3, we have the From Software gothic nightmare of Bloodborne. Now, this was my first game in the Soulsborne series back in 2018, and as I mentioned in my review, I was ready to give up after a few hours, but then the combat and timing started to click for me and I was hooked. The beautiful setting and architecture of the buildings and locations, the classic interconnected world, and the wonderful enemy and boss designs were just remarkable. Bloodborne would take the slower and more methodical combat of Dark Souls and its defensive characteristics and throw them out the window, and instead offer no shields and reward players for being more aggressive. Combat felt good, and increasing the stats of your character and using the different weapons, should you choose to, allowed players to create different builds and perhaps implement even more challenge with this as well. With great sound and mysterious lore and vague storytelling, Bloodborne had that challenge of Dark Souls, but with enough changes to make it quite different. The only real blemish for the game is the erratic frame rate performance. Hopefully this can be patched at some stage for the PS5, as it still runs as the original did. But to see a game like this running at 60 frames a second is the stuff of dreams. Either way, it's still a classic and a must play for anybody who likes From Software games or is looking for a challenge. It's flawed brilliance. For number 2, we have the excellent Ghost of Tsushima, which just delivers in so many ways that it just had to be right up the top of my list. From its great characters and story, which slowly unfolds and becomes better the more you play, to the deep combat system and the impeccable visual presentation. Ghost of Tsushima is of the highest quality and will be long remembered as one of the best PS4 games. Its colourful world, environmental detail and gorgeous lighting is simply stunning to behold, and it all combines to give the game its own unique look. This is only improved on the PS5 with its increased frame rate, making the game just that much better, but the performance on the PS4 was also fantastic, and where I never experienced any slowdown or frame rate issues. There are a few graphical hitches such as feet disappearing when walking up inclines, but it's such a minor detail and doesn't distract from its greatness. With the addition of the Legends mode, which saw multiplayer be added, 2 to 4 players could now team up to take on the different modes, including its own unique story missions, a wave-based mode, and a raid, each of which will give players different loot, has different difficulty settings, and has 4 playable classes. Ghost of Tsushima is nothing short of a beautifully crafted game with incredible graphics, excellent and varied combat systems, and now with a multiplayer mode, which is worth the price of admission alone. It's a must play. And now we get to number 1. What needs to be said about God of War that hasn't been said so many times already? As somebody who was never a big fan of the original games, I wasn't all that interested in any future games until I saw it for the first time. God of War is a beautifully realised game that delivers everything almost perfectly. From its strong and fully fleshed out characters, to the fantastic story which is based in Norse mythology, to its gorgeous looking locations and the combat system which never gets old. God of War is simply a stunning game. What Sony Santa Monica created here is nothing short of amazing when we take all of the parts together, including the incredibly atmospheric and sometimes haunting soundtrack. Watching the story and action play out without the need for noticeable load screens during play just makes the whole experience just that, an actual experience in which it draws you in and won't let up until the end. It's an example in beautiful graphics, but also the design of the world itself, the enemies and your allies. Everything comes together to easily make one of the best games of the generation, and just shows what an enormous achievement it is for Sony Santa Monica to deliver such an incredible reimagining of the series. Every PS4 and PS5 owner needs to experience this game. So there are my top PS4 exclusives and which ones need to be played for the first time or once again on the more powerful PS5 with the increased performance many do have. This list was incredibly difficult putting it together as most of the games got shifted around several times in order to land at their final place, after thinking and rethinking over them several times. But please let me know which are your top PlayStation games and which one is your favorite. Once again, if you liked the video, then please like, share or leave a comment, and I'll see you on the next video.